Well. Oh, hey there, everyone. Welcome to Bob After Dark Live. I am your host. I am your host with the most that enjoys toast, Bob, and I am talking somewhere that's not muted. Give me a second, because that's going to drive me nuts. Talking somewhere that's not muted. Give me a second. I found it. There we are. Okay. So, check it. This is my first time ever doing... There we go. This is my first time ever doing a multi-stream, right? Because the show was unfortunately canceled. We had some scheduling conflicts and kind of just got in the way. And I didn't want to leave you guys high and dry, willy-nilly. I wanted to do something for you guys. So no matter what platform you follow me on, you now have an opportunity to watch me tonight. I'm on everyone. I'm on the book face. I'm on the clock app. I'm on the white play button. I hate this nonsense. And I'm on the purple app, so I'm on them all, baby. But it's really nice to see all of your lovely faces across all of the streams here, and make sure you guys say hello in all of them so we could say hello back. I'm going to keep the music going while I do some reading here. And I wanted to read you guys a little bit of the Dictionary of Ghosts. This is going to be the first book. Actually, I'll let you all decide. So one of our first things we're doing is a Dictionary of Ghosts by Peter Haining. This just has random bits and pieces of random either ghost stories or definitions of types of spirits. It's a good nifty one to have. I wish I had my field guide on me. That's the best paranormal book I've ever read. That's in my library. Okay, so my next one is... Hey, thank you so much for getting spooky there, Vix. I appreciate you. It's nice to see you. I have True Ghost Stories of the Haunted Heartland. There is some bits in here from Chicago ghost stories that I have never heard of before. So I'm going to tell you guys the one that I read recently out of this one that's really cool. And then finally, one that I'm very proud of and that I got this year is The Cabinet of Curiosities by Aaron Mahnke. Aaron Mahnke being a very more popular content creator than me from the different stuff that they do. Lore is their big podcast, but I got a chance to meet Aaron, and Aaron signed my book and listened to me talk and pitched Bob After Dark to me. And he wrote, Stay Curious, Bob. I'm going to try to show that off. Am I in a turtleneck? No, I'm in a Last of Us 2 shirt. It's too hot for a turtleneck. Although, I need to find that turtleneck that you got me, because it'll be turtleneck weather, and I have 3 speaking engagements already in October. Can you believe that? So, I need to kill this down just a bit. Stream looks like it. Well, we'll go for it. Alright, I know this isn't the best ghost story music I could give you guys, but this is the free, no one's going to get mad at you for it. Sorry, Vic's shooting you a message real quick. This is the first time I've ever been able to get all the lives all at once. Kind of cool. Play button isn't doing very well for me. Some talkers are paying attention. So what's going on, everybody in that land? It's good to have you, and of course the people in the book faces. If you say something to me in one of them, I promise you I will get to your moment. I'll get to what your question or comment is in a moment. So let's start with The Cabinet of Curiosities by Aaron Mahnke. Let's flip to one of the ones I've never heard before, because this is one you could kind of skip through. And it's got some of the haunted stories in here, which is pretty interesting. Trying to find one here that would be a good one for ghost stories, because there's a lot in here. Okay, monster mass. Killdeer. It would be good if you would have given me the page number that I could find you on, Aaron. Bizarre events, eerie mysteries. Alright. Let us read. That's awesome. Yeah, I know. How are you tonight, Heather? You doing good? It's nice to see you. Alright, so let's get to our first story here. Curious Americana, Fantastic Beasts. 58. Alright, I'm going to read you guys... Oop, bump the mic. The Monster Mass from the Cabinet of Curiosities from Aaron Mahnke from the Lore book. Excellent. Heather, I have 3 public speaking appearances this October, if you haven't heard already. Hope to see you at least one of them. 3 library events so far. One in Highland, one in Maryville, and one in Whiting. Alright, so let's read the Monster Mass. Before the days of mechanical refrigerators, we place a giant block of ice in the block of ice in a box, and then store our food there to keep it fresh. Someone had to go in and out and get ice delivered to customers. They were called icemen, and they were often farmers who worked during the winter harvesting ice from frozen lakes and rivers. They'd walk out onto the lake at least a foot of ice on the surface and use a large handsaw to cut out blocks. These blocks were then stored in large buildings during warmer months so people could still refrigerate their months in the summer. Refrigerate their food in the summer. As you can imagine, it was a dangerous job. One wrong step with an iceman could be lost until spring. As a result, the men who did work tended to be pretty rough, tough to scare. However, in 1891, 2 Midwestern icemen came face to face with something that made their blood turn cold. It was early September, and Marshall McIroney and Bill Gray of Crossford, Indiana, were getting ready to deliver ice into town. As they were fastening harnesses around their horses, something appeared overhead. It was several hundred feet in the air and swirling above them. The creature measured roughly 18 feet long by 8 feet wide, which is massive, by the way. It had been there described by witnesses as a great white shroud that had seemed moved through the air using large fin that ran along its sides. It had no head, but looked down upon the men with their barn. Excuse me. It had no head, but it looked down upon that men in their barn with a large flaming eye right in the center, and it let out a plaintive wheezing sound. Hold on, let me get something to help keep my place here. Thanks, dyslexia. Legitimately have it, it sucks. As it got closer, the creature circled above the farmhouse and the barn. Bill and Marshall had no idea what it was or what it wanted, but they didn't want to risk being devoured by it. They fled the barn and waited until it disappeared, which is even which is eventually did. It flew towards the center of town before turning its back from the farm. Bill and Marshall watched as it floated overhead for another hour until they decided enough was enough. The men darted for the ice house, mounted their horses, and departed for town. When they returned to the farm after the sunrise, the creature was gone. The Icemen gave an interview to a local paper all about the bizarre encounter, telling the reporter that they'd be carrying rifle on their deliveries from now on in the event that the creature ever returned. The story was later published that day in Crawford's Daily Journal. A few days later, another article was published in the journal, this time featuring eyewitness testimony from townsfolk who also saw the enormous white thing squirming in the air. Its mournful screeching continued, and some of the Crosville citizens even reported seeing the creature's hot breath as it passed overhead. The story soon spread to the Indianapolis Journal, a much larger newspaper, before making its way across the country to the outlets like the Brooklyn Eagle all the way to in New York. But even though the story captured the imaginations of people from coast to coast, the Crossfield monster had solidified itself as a local legend. In the ensuing weeks, the Crossford postmaster received numerous letters about the creature. It seemed the whole town had monster fever. That is until two men, Jonathan Hornbeck and Abe Hurley, encountered a white wheezing shroud terrorizing the town. They followed it for several miles before discovering the truth about its origin. It wasn't a shapeless, otherworldly mass. It was made up of birds, killdeer to be exact. The gathering of birds had likely grown confused by the town's electric lights, which had been recently installed, compounded by the damp, foggy air reducing visibility. Marshall McIronty and Bill Gray, all of the other Crodsville locals simply hadn't realized what they were looking at. Whoever first thought up of the old cliche had it right when they said, seeing is believing, but that doesn't mean we have to believe everything we read. The only thing more frightening than the Crawfordsville monster is how quickly everyone brought up into the story without doing any critical thinking. Even though ice houses have faded into the past, our gullibility is as strong as ever, which might be the most chilling part of the entire story. The end. What'd you guys think of that one? I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to check across the board here and see what you guys think. Panic is actually doing some pierogi business right now. I seem mopey. No, I'm good. Let's see here. I feel like Indiana has some kind of ley line intersection. There's so much high weirdness in Indiana. Yeah, I know. Grew up here my entire life. It's definitely something. What do you guys think? Do you want me to read you guys another one from the Cabinet of Curiosities, or do you guys want me to read you one from another book? Y'all decide. All right. Hey, so what's going on, everybody? Just doing a quick check-in for anybody that's new that's joined. I'm reading from three paranormal books I had just at my reach. One is The Cabinet of Curiosities by Aaron Mahnke from Lore fame. I have Ghost Stories from the Haunted Heartland from the American Midwest. That's by Beth Scott and Michael Norman. And then we have A Dictionary of Ghosts. I think I'm going to crack this bad boy open. And since I didn't have any suggestions, I believe I am handling this the correct way. Same book you want me to read from? Okay, I could do that. Let me pull that back open, and then I didn't see your comment, Heather. I appreciate that. Let's flip to that one again. Oh. So let's see here. Let's see here. Bizarre events, unbelievable stunts, baffling origins, peculiar places. We're looking for the creatures. Where are those at? Fantastic beasts. All right, let's check out Pig-Headed. That one was one we were looking at earlier, anyway. That one sounds pretty spooky. As the old saying goes, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. Education to that enlightened fisherman was important to life itself. To some, it's the reason they put out on this earth in the first place. A good teacher can move us forward, make us better, make life a little more fulfilling. But a good teacher can do more than that. A good teacher can teach the unteachable, and not only fulfill their lives, but the lives of those around them. Samuel Bissett was just one such teacher. He was born in Perthshire, Scotland in the early 1700s, and originally sought work as a shoemaker before trying his luck in London at a different, more lucrative career. He was reading a story about an attraction at a local fair when he was struck with an idea that might have sounded a bit absurd to anyone else. Bissett read of a horse that could perform odd tricks. The novelty combined with his own stubborn refusal to settle down into one line of work set him on a path toward becoming a animal trainer. He started by training a horse and a dog for his act, but then moved up from there. He trained one monkey to dance on a tightrope while another held a lit candle. I'll flip to Ghost of the Heartlands next, Tiffany. I'll do that one for you. Thanks for the suggestion. Now I'm still, pardon me as I'm playing catch up. I'm not used to doing 3 streams worth of reading here. Alright, let's get back to work here. Not content with his small zoo of performing animals, Samuel went bigger. Well, technically smaller, but the plan was to put on a grand musical performance with cats. Not those cats with costumes and wigs. I mean actual cats. He purchased 3 kittens and worked with them for months, teaching them how to hit dulcimer strings with their paws to create music. The Cat's Opera, he called it, and ran it for almost a week and made Bissett rich. Which only encouraged him to add more animals to his routine. He caught a rabbit He taught a rabbit how to play military marches on a drum with his hind legs. Small birds such as sparrows and canaries could spell anyone's name in the audience. And even though he already had a dog in his lineup, he taught a turtle how to play fetch. While Bissett had proven successful training animals with uncharacteristic talents to entertain crowds, none of his acts proved financially successful as his Cats opera. He thought perhaps he had exhausted his opportunities in London and decided to take his show on the road, moving to his human family and his furry family to Ireland for a new start. It was there that he encountered seemingly unbeatable challenge. According to some folks, only animal that was too stubborn to train was a pig. It couldn't be done, they said. Bissett wanted to prove them wrong. He accepted the challenge and purchased a black suckling pig for 3 shillings. I don't know how much 3 shillings is, but I'm assuming it's not a lot. He immediately taught it to lay down under the stool where he worked. Unfortunately, that's about as much as the pig would learn at first. Bissett nearly gave it away until he looked at a problem from a different angle. He worked closely with the pig over the next 16 months, turning what was originally considered an obstinate and unreasonable animal into something akin to a loyal golden retriever. The learned pig, as it had come to be known, could do all sorts of amazing tricks to enthrall audiences. It could tell time down to the second. It had an impeccable talent for picking out married folks from unmarried folks. It knew how to spell out a person's name and in some cases read a woman's mind. It could also kneel out of the respect in the way you would do before the queen. But not everyone loved Bissett and his learned pig. One night, a man wielding a sword broke into his hotel room with the intent to kill the pig. To him, the animal was an affront to God and everything decent. The man swung the sword around in the room, destroying everything in its path, before plunging the blade into the unsuspecting trainer. Bissett begged the man leave and showed him the permit he had obtained from the chief magistrate for his pig to perform. The attacker accepted the proof, but threatened to drag Bissett to jail if he ever showed his face in town again. It wouldn't matter, though. The injury he sustained became infected, and not long after he passed away. The pig, however, lived on. Not really did it continue to perform under a new owner, but it inspired similar acts throughout the 19th century. The image of an educated pig even became the common way for cartoonists to illustrate and the greed of rich and overindulgent nature of celebrities and politicians. In a way, the learned pig became something that all of us might recognize. The first and longest lasting meme. The end. Interesting stuff, huh? Hold on, get the next book. Alright, Tiffany suggested we read the Haunted Heartland, which there's a really good one in here about a haunted firefighters a firehouse, which is the one I'll read you guys. Interesting stuff, huh, Heather? Okay, so let's read one last one and we will call it there for the night. So well, actually, I'm going to read one from the Dictionary of Ghosts, then we'll call it a night. You know, so this is Haunted Heartland, Beth Scott and Michael Norman. Sorry for bumping the mic, but that's what we're reading. And of course, Haunted Chicago, the first thing you get to read about is Resurrection Mary. But we're going to skip ahead to The Telltale Hand. Alright, so the Telltale Hand. Each city in America has its tales of heroic firefighters, public servants whose lives often sanction to protect the public they serve. Chicago is no different. The files of the Chicago Fire Department are filled with the names of those who have passed in the line of duty and the fires that claim them. Of course, every American schoolchild knows of Mrs. O'Leary and her errant lantern-kicking cow, whose actions triggered the conflagration which nearly destroyed the city. But one of the strangest cases in the Chicago fire history doesn't concern a particularly spectacular or long-remembered fire, although there was a tragic loss of 10 lives, including 8 firemen. The events unfolded after the fire make the story chilling. Frank X. Levi. Frank was known to his fellow firefighters and seemed melancholy, preoccupied, and he raised a soapy rag to clean the winter's dirt from one window in the firehouse at 13th and Oakley. It was Good Friday, April 18th, 1924. Levy was scheduled to work that day in Easter, according to recently posted work schedule. Levy was a 13-year veteran of the force and dedicated his profession, but disturbed by being away from his wife and young children, June, Frank, and Mary. Mary is his wife. They would understand, of course, that he couldn't, but that didn't assuage Levy's gloom, and he struggled to concentrate on cleaning the windows in the firehouse. The cold winter in late spring had taken its toll on the spirits of men in the Engine Company 107 and Truck Company 12. They were thankful that on this day they could leave the large red doors of the firehouse open as they went about the spring house cleaning. Levy's friend, Edward McKevitt, was concerned about his comrade's Dior expression. He walked over to Levy. "What's the problem?" he asked. Levy's shoulders sagged. "This is my last day on the fire department," he replied. The soapy palm of his left hand rested on the window glass while he continued to wipe the window with the wet cloth in his other hand. McEverett was surprised. Earlier that morning, Lovely seemed happy and content, talking about his future plans, whether he was working on Easter or concerned about the big fire spreading through the Union stockyards. McEverett didn't know. For several hours, a ticket tape type device, the Big Joker was termed, had been rat-a-tat-tatting messages to the company about a 4-alarm stockyard blaze. The machine was the firehouse's link with other firehouses, and the stockyard's fire was extremely serious. Levi's company was far enough away not to have been called, but if the fire grew any worse, they might have to respond, and worse yet, if the blaze erupted into another part of the city. Levy's company might not be able to count on backup support because of the large number of units already fighting in the stockyard blaze. Suddenly, the Big Joker clicked out on the message from the alarm box 372, nearly 2 miles across from the city. Several minutes later, Engine Company 107 and the Truck Company 12 were ordered to report to the fire at Curran Hall. an imposing 4-story brick and stone edifice southwest of the loop. Frank Levi and Edward McKevitt and their fellow firefighters clambered aboard and pumper and truck for the harrowing ride through the congested streets to the fire. There were a few traffic lights in 1924. Intersections were scenes of impossible congestion. I mean, look, guys, they still are. You ever been to Chicago? Literally the worst. The screaming fire engine left trail of bewildered citizens and frightened horses. Curran Hall was engulfed in flames. The building housed a number of small businesses. The heaviest smoke seemed to be pouring from the upper floors. Truck 12's crew was ordered onto the roof to chop a hole and ventilate the upper floor. Firefighters could then reach the center of the fire. Frank Levi, or Levy, and the men from Engine 107 were told to make their way to the second floor. On their hands and knees, the men groped their way up the stairwell through choking smoke. There were no oxygen masks in those days. The men coughed and vomited the whole way. Once they reached the second floor, the men had to take turns going onto the fire escape for fresh air. The minutes passed slowly, and it seemed the firefighters were gaining advantage over the flames. Suddenly, a cry rang out, "Get out! Get out!" Supervisors on the ground saw what the men inside could not. The outside wall was crumbling. Levy and the others scrambled at the fire escapes and stared down, but it was too late. The wall caved in with a sickening crunch like a giant roll of thunder. Hoses split, sending streams of water exploding in all directions. Ladders snapped in two like so many matchsticks, and the firefighting equipment was also buried under an avalanche of brick and mortar, and the frantic firefighters making their way to safety disappeared under the lethal shower of building materials. Frank Levi never had a chance. He was only partway down the fire escape when the wall collapsed. Hours later, the bodies of 8 firefighters were pulled from the rubble, while almost all the firemen victims were battered beyond recognition. The face of Frank Levy was the only one recognizable among the fatalities. And the next day, Holy Saturday, Edward McKevitt slumped in his chair and he tried to explain to his fellow fighters what happened the day before. And it was not easy. 8 of his co-workers were dead. 20 firefighters were injured too critically. And yet, McKevitt found himself the most troubled by Frank Levi's premonition of death. "This is my last day on the fire department." As McKevitt glanced around the fire station trying to understand the senseless events, he gazed at the window that had been washing a day before. His eyes focused on what seemed to be a blemish on the window. He rose and looked closely at it. It was the unmistakable outline of a man's hand, Frank Levy's hand. McKevitt clearly remembered Levy resting his palm against it as he wiped the window 24 hours earlier. "My God, it's Levy's hand," McKermott muttered. Almost got to himself. The men had been listening to McKevitt gathered around the strange impression. McKevitt told them how he had seen Levy place his left hand in the very spot only the day before. The image which remained on the glass was that of a left hand, and its fingers outstretched, just the type of mark that would have been made by a hand drenched in water and sudsy soaps. McKevitt rubbed the window with a sponge from the bucket that Levy was using. The mark would not go away. The harder McKevitt wiped, the more obvious it became that Levy's handprint would not go away. Other men tried to wipe it off, and they all failed. Ammonia, strong soaps, even a razor blade failed to dislodge the image. One firefighter went outside thinking the print was not inside the window. His intense scrubbing was futile. By the early following week, the story of the firehouse at 13th and Oakley and its mysterious handprint had soon spread throughout the city, fueled by several newspaper stories. Soon, other firefighters, newspaper reporters, neighbors, and curiosity seekers showed up at the station's big red doors for a look at Levy's handprint. And an expert from Pittsburgh Plate Glass Company, the manufacturers of the window, was called to solve the problem. He used a specially highly reliable chemical compound to clean the window, but Levy's handprint remained. A city officially compared a copy of Levy's thumbprint to the thumbprint left on the window, and he said it was a match. As the weeks and months passed on, a steady stream of the curious and continued to show up at the fire station. Firefighters regularly washed the windows, including Levy's handprint, knowing full well that the image would not go away. Suggestions were periodically made to replace the glass, but the firefighters usually objected, saying it wasn't right to tamper with, and I quote, the unknown. Good for them, by the way. Over the years, the firehouse at 13th and Oakley saw dozens of firefighters stay within its walls and then go to do other assignments. Levy's handprint always remained. It was a custom for older firemen to tell the story of Frank Levy to the new firefighters. Newspaper reports occasionally resurrected the oddity, bringing a new horde of curiosity seekers. Curiously, Frank Levy's widow Mary and his children never came to look at the handprint, even though Frank Jr. followed his dad's footsteps and became a firefighter on April 18th, 1945, the 21st anniversary of his father's death. Did the window pane actually contain Levy's ghostly handprint, or was the image a deflect in the glass which, viewed at certain angles, resembled a man's hand? It's impossible to answer those questions today. However, there is no evidence to suggest that the defect was ever noticed until after Frank's tragic death. Some firemen were convinced the print was supernatural. There's suggested that Levy's frightening premonition of death caused a bodily chemical to mix with his perspiration, causing the indelible stain. No one has ever satisfactorily exclaimed what caused the grim legacy of a dead fireman. And what happened to the window with Frank Levy's handprint? It's the strangest of all. On April 18th, 1944, 20 years to the date on which Levy died, a newspaper boy threw a rolled-up newspaper towards the firehouse. The missile struck Levy's window, breaking it into 1,000 pieces. And that, my children of the night, is the story of the firefighter's handprint. Kind of cool, huh? I need to drink some water and check in on you guys. Hey, No Aim Slater, what's going on, dude? Thanks for dropping in the chat. Appreciate you. Very kind of you. All right. Let's get one more reading in, folks, and then we're going to call it a night. So we're going to be reading something from the Dictionary of Ghosts by Bill Haining. Let's see here. Hey Danielle, I'm doing okay. Hope all's well. Yeah, we were supposed to be at the studio tonight. Conflict came up between our schedules, so we weren't able to do a live show tonight. But I am going to put out the episode from last week, probably tomorrow or Thursday. It needs a lot of work. It wasn't one of my better episodes, so that's why it took so long. But hello, it's really nice to see you. Alright, so without further ado, are you guys ready to hear a story from the Dictionary of Ghosts? I forgot what I was reading. Here, let's read about the Amherst Mystery. The Amherst Mystery is perhaps the most famous case of poltergeist. Oh no, I did this one on the podcast recently. Alright, we're going to read about the Blue Man. The Blue Man is a famous ghost who haunts 12th century castle in Sussex. The ghost is believed to be that of a dashing man of fashion, for he is arrayed in a magnificent suit of blue silk, and he is usually found moving sedately about the castle library. According to legends, this ancestral home of the Dukes of Norfolk have three other ghosts that live that spirit of a kitchen boy murdered over 200 years ago, a beautiful girl all in white. Of course, it's a lady in white. Lady in white, who unfortunately committed suicide by jumping from a tower, and a strange white bird that always appears in the vicinity whenever a member of the family is about to die. Interesting stuff. White bird's an interesting one there. It's almost like a harbinger. This has been a lot of fun, guys. I know we didn't have a full show, but I still had a good time reading you guys, and I appreciate y'all sticking around. Next week, if you are at Gen Con, I still have tickets available for two of my events. The one is Friday night at 7:30. Oh boy, I'm gonna screw this up. Let me look this up real quick. Let's sign in and we're going to look at this real quick. My schedule. Alright, so I still have a little less than 30 tickets available for the Paranormal and You panel, and I have quite a bit left for a Dark and Stormy Night, creating a paranormal setting for an RPG. That one's in ICC 212. So that one's 7 o'clock on Saturday. And my other one's Friday at 5 o'clock. So I still have tickets available for both if you're going to be at Gen Con. Oh, Heather, glad to help. And I will have a graphic out explaining all the places I will be throughout October, because I'm still taking bookings to this day. So thanks guys so much for watching and hanging out. I really appreciate it. I had fun. So I will talk to all of you guys later.
Look to my coming at first light on the fifth day, at dawn.
Did I really just get raided? I can't believe I got raided right when I left.